What's interesting here is the tree looks better than it does at the end after a couple of years, but that lower branch is tucked in, and there's sort of that character branch is that mid branch shooting out to the left. When you look at the new version here, you'll see that lower branch is way longer. This bottom branch, and I actually don't know if that looks as good. I think it makes the foliage look too big for the size of the tree.
Fir Bonsai, Doug Fir, and realizing like if you don't trim, what we were saying was if you don't trim now and you wait longer, then these buds don't set till way later. I'm also wondering what this is. I've seen it on a few of them. I haven't quite been able to identify it, so if anybody knows, this sort of brown is sensing it's some sort of rust or something. If anybody knows, please comment. It's showing up on a few of my firs, so I'm getting a little bit worried, but I really like this tree. You probably saw it last year when I worked on it. But what it needs to do is it needs to be pulled back. So you can see it's just put on tremendous amounts of growth, and I need to be able to hold it back a little bit more and allow it to set buds interior.
So I always find it a good idea to spend about 20 minutes with the tree before I start trimming, just to get familiar with it again. And then what I realize is they're actually little buds have set. So I'm actually looking for little buds and cutting back to them, kind of deciding between ramification or cutting it back and pulling the tree in, because at the tips there's often two little buds, one at the end and one just a little bit back. And so I'm sort of making that decision, and I try to pull it back as I go. And because the buds are set, I actually have to cut back to a bud, because if I cut back prior to a bud, it's not going to set new buds. And this is really early and unique to Doug Fir. And if I did cut back, before, like prior to a bud, like within the interior, and it, the branch could die. But if it does live, it's not even going to set buds this year. It's going to set buds next year. And so you're looking at a whole year and a half. So unique to Douglas Fir.
So you can see I've kind of opened it up a bunch. If I turn it this way too much, I get a straight section there, and if I keep it this way, I get teeny little bits of movement. It's pretty hard to see, but this really straightens out. And then what happens is I get this long. I mean, it's a really strong character branch, but it just looks like this V here. Because it's kind of swooped there, it just creates a big gap. So I kind of almost like this forward more. It kind of makes that a more acute angle. But yeah, overall I'm really happy. Kind of just opened it up, pushed it all back. You can see there's quite a lot of vigor still at the top. And maybe I should have trimmed that more, but I did trim almost every single one of those to pull it back. So yeah, Doug Fir, maybe just right there. Angle. I don't want too much of a gap there either. I kind of like it, maybe that's the spot, and then I get a little bit more of a wiggle. So that's still a little thick up top, but I just feel like I couldn't take it back anymore. So I'm gonna wait for more interior buds to kind of push up and just keep reducing. And it would be nice to have, maybe it's a bit hard to see, maybe that off there with the background, but you can see the apex. It's just a little huge, right? That's a little far out. But yeah, I tried to get all the branches coming down. If I get too far over sideways, this branch starts to come out too much. But yeah, I tried to kind of get consistency of the branches coming down and good placement. So branch that starts here, ends here, lower. And I could get a little more, a little thinner, but it just needs to get dense. So the trunk needs to get thicker and the branch need to get denser.
Yeah, so I spent some time up in the Alpine, subalpine in the winter, and this is what the trees look like. Just caked in snow. So these are mostly subalpine firs. There's a few lodgepoles and actually a few larches up here. I was kind of surprised. Yeah, and you can see the tops just get ripped right off with the wind and snow.